Darwin ka theory isn't completely proved.
Yeah, I mean, see, Darwin's no, absolutely not. See, Darwin's theory had many components. The one that I talked about over here is evolution by natural selection. That one is proved beyond doubt. I mean, I showed you the COVID example and all that, right? That one is proved beyond doubt. Darwin's theory had other components, many of which have also been proven many times beyond doubt. Some components have, basically people have shown that that is not correct. But essentially, the main stuff that I talked about, evolution by natural selection, that is proven beyond any.
I was saying that Darwin is the same person who gave two theories, that bear wanted to eat a fly and so he went into the ocean.
Bear wanted to eat a fly, so it went to the ocean.
Yeah, and he turned into a whale.
And he turned into a whale.
Yeah, that is Darwin ka theory. And another
where
one is.
Where did you read that? I have never heard.
I actually heard that.
You might want to check it, because I don't think Darwin ever said that bear wanted to eat a fly, therefore it went to the ocean and became a whale.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, he also said that zebras, they evolved into giraffe.
I don't think Darwin would have ever said that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, see, I don't think either of what you are saying is factually right, but I will tell you something that Darwin actually said and was proven to be wrong. So, Darwin gave what is known as the pangenetic theory of inheritance, which later was shown to be conclusively wrong. Darwin also said that evolution will be very slow, and today we know that in many cases evolution can be very fast. I mean, COVID is an example. Okay. So, many things that Darwin said turned out to be right, certain things that Darwin said turned out to be wrong. This evolution by natural selection is one that what Darwin said turned out to be right. So, that is how science works. Every scientist says multiple things, some of which turn out to be correct, some of which turn out to be wrong. We go with whatever turns out to be correct. So, what is the problem?
Yeah, I also wanted to ask another thing, the evolution which happened. So why can't we evolve right now also? Like, why can't we evolve to change that?
We are evolving. Human beings are evolving. Everybody is evolving. It is just that, see, the problem with human beings is our lifespan is very long, and we reproduce, roughly speaking, on an average about 25 to 30 years at life. Yeah. So, these changes, suppose they take 5-6 generations, that will mean 150 years. We won't be around to see it, but there are documented cases of humans evolving all the time.
Sir, there was an actor named Heath Ledger. He played the role of Joker in Batman.
Heath Ledger, yeah.
So to get suited in that role, he locked himself in a room for almost 20 days.
Okay.
To get mentally prepared for that villain role. So he told in an interview that he really enjoyed it. So if it is our mentality to stay alone, is it okay? Can we not get mental issues?
Can we not get mental issues?
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, do you know that in any prison, the highest form of punishment that is given, okay, when they break all the rules, is solitary confinement. Solitary confinement in a cell, okay, that is like absolutely highest level, where you cannot see anybody's face, you cannot interact with anyone, cannot talk to anyone. So that is the level to which not interacting with others can take you. All right. Now, what Heath Ledger did, think about it. Why did he do that? He wanted to get into the mind of the most deranged, most, how do I say, lunatic and completely off the wheels character in the entire Batman universe, right? So, and for that he did that. So that automatically tells you that going solitary, what kind of problems it can lead to. So as far as practicable, try not to go solitary. Okay. Some exceptions to the rule, but that is a different ballgame.
So you said that the absence of that physical aggression is resulting in many diseases. For example, you told us about diabetes.
That is the hypothesis, yes.
And also you told that when people were separated from their group or tribe, they used to die within like few days. So in today's era, both of the things are happening. People are not socializing enough, and also that physical aggression is
Not there,
absent.
yes, yes.
So can we say that the new generations are becoming weaker?
The new generation as of this moment is weaker. But remember, as somebody pointed out, are humans also evolving? And I said yes. So because we are evolving, if this stays for, let's say, next 200, 300 years, and we keep on being solitary like this and lack of aggression like this, we will adapt to this. Okay? It's just that it will take us time, and that time we don't have, we will be dead by then. Okay? So it is not really making us weaker, I mean, it is just leading to a mismatch, because of which we are suffering.
So if it said that if you are isolating yourself, like you are being alone, is good or bad? So the thing is, if it is beneficial for your individual to be alone, it is relaxing, it is comforting, and it is very beneficial to you. But it is also beneficial to be in a group. So what is the thing which can be more beneficial to the human?
Okay. So that is precisely why, because of this question, that I said that there are some caveats to the staying alone. See, there are some times when people need to be alone. Okay. And for different people, that time is different. So you know that some people are introverted. They just like to sit with a book. There are some people who are extroverted, who like to go out and who like to play and who like to talk to different people, etc., etc. So at an individual level, people's requirement for solitude varies. Okay. The variation, remember I said, for any character there is variation. Now what I told is that on an average, if you are alone for a very long time, then these things will kick in. But these will kick in with different levels of intensity for different people. So if you are an introverted person and you are perfectly okay being alone for, let's say, 2 hours or 3 hours a day, and it is not affecting you in any way, it is, making your mood better, then that means it's working for you. That's good. You are part of the variation. You are the one which will get selected, and after 6 generations will make the entire human race, immune to this problem. Okay. So always remember the individual variation, and always appreciate that these statements that I am making, that is at the population level as a group. Okay.
Sir, is there any stage where a species does not evolve?
Is there a stage where a species does not evolve? Yes, it is possible. Because you remember when I said about that natural selection, I said the first thing that you need is variation. So if there is no variation, the species will not evolve. So for example, human beings, 2 eyes. There is no variation for number of eyes, and therefore the number of eyes in humans will stay constant unless there is some change in the genetics somewhere which leads to a third eye, and that leads to a different thing. But as long as everybody has 2 eyes, we will keep on having 2 eyes.
So my name is Shalini Ramesh and I am from SNPP school. Sir, I wanted to ask you a question that why did evolution created a chicken that lays so many unfertilized eggs, and that is so wasteful, right? So is there any evaluation?
Unfertilized eggs, that is so wasteful.
Yes, sir.
See, fertilization is something that depends on having the other sex, right, and its sperms and so on and so forth. So it is not necessarily wasteful, because it will all depend on whether it is going to get a male or not. Now what you are trying to say is, suppose we had a system wherein the chicken produced an egg only when it got the sperm. If it didn't get the sperm, it will not produce the egg. That will be less wasteful. I fully agree. But the point with evolution is that in most of the cases, evolution cannot be perfect. Okay. It tries to go there, but if it does not have the required variation, or if it does not have the required selection pressure, it will not be able to become perfect. So evolution never claims perfection. And that is what leads to some of these situations like what you are pointing, where a feature seems to be wasteful. Okay?
Sir, sir, I had a doubt that, so as you said that the KGB and that thing,
So,
super chicken, huh?
so how in a group is that possible that the numbers rise? Like, what is the main reason behind it?
What rise?
The number of eggs laid.
By which one, the KGB or the super chicken?
The KGB.
The KGB. So what they did was, they took multiple groups, okay, and for each group they counted the total number of eggs laid by all of them, okay, and then they selected those groups which are laying the maximum number of eggs together. So think about it. Suppose there are two ways in which egg production can go up. One is when individuals lay more eggs. Second is when individuals cooperate with each other such that everybody is able to lay sufficient number of eggs, okay, so that the total goes up. Now in the KGB, both traits are getting selected, right? But any individual which is leading to, through aggression, a reduction in somebody else's egg production, that is not going to get selected. That is how KGB is going. Okay?
Sir, I also had a doubt that, this physical aggression that you said, sir, is it somewhat related to adrenaline and the
adrenaline axis is there. That is one of the several set of molecules operating, and the other set of molecules operating are the so-called epidermal growth factors and neural growth factors and so on.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, so as a sports person, I play table tennis at the state level. So for example, I have a tournament tomorrow. So I have stress before a day of the tournament.
Yes.
So how can we use evolutionary thinking there to change the mindset I have before my match? So like how can we use, change my thinking at that point of time so that
you should not, is what I am trying to say. Because see, some amount of stress is actually good. It makes you alert, okay. When that stress is so much that you are not able to eat, that you are not able to sleep, that you are becoming weaker and so on and so forth, then it becomes worse for you, okay. So you should actually be happy for moderate amount of stress. It's when the stress is very large, that is when you should be wary of it.
So what should I do at that point of time when
So
I feel that?
there are lots of things that sports people do. There are certain meditative exercises which if you do, then your various neuropeptide levels change. So essentially meditate, first thing. Second major thing is go out with friends, okay, and essentially think about, or basically get lost in other stuffs. Don't think about that stuff too much, and then don't eat certain kinds of food. So there are certain kinds of food that actually increase the levels of your stress hormones. So don't. You have heard about all that, right?
Yes, yes.
So don't eat those kinds of food, and that's about it. See, I'll tell you one thing. It is also a function of age. Okay. So when you are young, and when you have just started, you have how many matches have you played in your life?
So I started in 2019. So till then, 15 tournaments, I guess.
15 tournaments, which translates to about say 100 matches, not more than that. Okay. With 100 matches, it will be there. By the time you hit 1000, it won't be there. Seriously, you will get used to it. That's what becoming a pro is all about. You are not yet a pro, you are still an amateur.
Yes.
When you become a pro, when you have played a lot, then you concentrate on the process. Right now you are concentrating on the outcome. Will I win, will I lose? But later you will not concentrate on the outcome. You will concentrate on, was I able to do a proper backhand? Okay.
So
how
I
was my
should,
service today?
Focus on the process rather than the
The
result.
moment you focus on the process, all these things will disappear. So
Thank you.
don't worry about it.
Thank you.
I am Siddhant Bansode, sir. Sir, I have a question. As someone pointed out that humans are still evolving, right? So, what are your ideas? What major evolution might happen in human beings 50 years later? 50 million years later, to be precise.
50 million years?
Yes.
Arey yaar, I don't even think we are going to last that long.
Okay.
If we last next 100 years, I'll be very happy.
Sir, but what do you think majorly will happen in human beings as a community? Anything?
See, it's very difficult to say, because in the context of human beings, right now the major pressure that we are facing is actually cultural. So, the way human beings differ in terms of their evolution from most other organisms is that we have added culture to our thing. Now, what do I mean by culture? Think about this room. Okay. Now, just pause. So, think about this room. This room is air conditioned, right? Because of which we are not feeling too cold, we are not feeling too hot. Okay. It's probably raining outside, we are not feeling it. Because of that, we are not getting at least certain kinds of diseases, etc., etc. So, a lot of selection pressures, we human beings have ended up nullifying that through our these kind of cultural inventions like ACs and electricity and all that. Because of that, the pressure on human beings are of a slightly different type. The pressure is happening more at the group level. So, for example, have you heard of this brilliant book called Guns, Germs and Steel by Jared Diamond? Has anybody heard of this, Guns, Germs and Steel? No? Okay. So, even if you do not read it, go to YouTube. So, they made a brilliant 3-part documentary on this, which is there on YouTube, which more or less tells you the major ideas of the book very nicely. Watch this. This entire thing is about human evolution, and why is it that certain civilizations are able to rise, and why is it that after they have risen they fall? Why did the Mayan civilization go away? Why did the Harappan civilization go away? Why were the British so successful in spreading their empire all over the world? So, right now a lot of human evolutionary stuff is happening at that level. So at the biological level, it is relatively less.
Sir, so you mean that the technology will somehow impact our evolution process?
In a huge way.
Yeah, in a
massive way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I am Siddharth Godbole from Seva Sadan School. So my question is that, is evolution always beneficial? Can it cause disadvantages sometimes?
Yes, evolution can cause disadvantages as well. Okay. So, evolution, if you again go back to what I showed you, variation, differential reproduction. Yes. So, if there is any trait which leads to increase in your reproduction in a certain scenario, that is it, it is going to get selected irrespective of whether that trait is beneficial in general or not. Okay. So, for example, there are certain communities in India which marry only among themselves. Okay. So, there as long as you are in that community, you are getting married. You, whether you have a disease or not, does not matter. And as a result of that, these communities, they actually have very large number of these kind of evolutionary diseases. Okay. We have heard of a movie called Kahani.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Kahani mein there is something called the Bombay blood group. Okay. Read up on Bombay blood group. That is one example of what I am talking about. So, the basic answer is evolution in many cases leads to things that are harmful.
Okay. I have another question.
Bola.
Can a living being devolve instead of evolve?
All the time.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Like for example, a living being of high intelligence evolves to a being of low intelligence.
Intelligence I do not know, because intelligence is rather hard to figure out.
Okay.
But an organism of greater complexity evolving into something with lower complexity happens all the time. So, I will give you an example. So, there are these fishes called cave fishes. Okay. So, these are fishes which normally live in streams, and sometimes they go into underwater caves which are completely dark. Most of the cases, once they go there, within a few generations they end up losing their eyes. Okay. Similarly, look at parasites inside your stomach. Many of those, they have ended up losing all their or huge number of their organs simply because that has made them better adapted to the parasitic life. Yeah. So, loss of complexity happens all the time.
So, I am Arush Parasnis from Seva Sadan School. My question to you is, can we say that evolution is interdependent, and if one factor is taken out, it can disturb the whole evolutionary line?
When you said factor, what factors do you have in mind?
Let's say trees and humans are interdependent, their
Yes.
evolution is interdependent.
Yes.
If a tree as a whole factor is taken out,
Yes.
it can
Without
affect
any question, whatever you said is absolutely right. Okay, so you change one. I mean, any organism is interacting with multiple stuffs. You change one component, the way the others are evolving will completely change.
Miss Shan and I am from SNBP Ratni School. I wanted to ask, can any other animal evolve too as a creature or something which can be just like humans and which has a brain and can think on their own?
Lots of organisms have brains and lots of them can think on their own.
Sir, which can have like more intelligence than us or something?
More intelligence than us. Theoretically speaking, obviously. Why not? I mean, at some point, we evolved to become what we are, right? So somebody else can become, more whatever, greater cranial capacities than ours.
Sir, my question may sound funny, but I have a question that why the evolution is necessary and are there any disadvantages of it?
Okay. First of all, evolution is not necessary. Evolution happens, you like it or not. So that is why you remember I gave those 3 conditions. When those 3 conditions are met, natural selection will operate. Okay. So it's not about necessity, it happens. And next question was whether there is disadvantage or not. All kinds of disadvantages can happen. It only depends on who you are asking. So for example, when the coronavirus evolved, we had a lot of disadvantage, right? Now the point is what about the coronavirus itself. Okay. So I can give you similar examples from our side. So look at, I already gave you the example, right? Just because we evolved to become, stay in group, today we are having a problem. Just because we evolved to become very efficient in gathering energy, today we are having a problem. So evolution can lead to disadvantages as well, no problems. I mean, that's how the process is.
Thank you, sir.
So my question is, like KGBs and super chickens, they were kept in a group, like they were
KGBs were kept in a group, huh?
They were sorted in groups. So as particularly talking about super chickens, they were not able to lay more eggs as they were showing aggression towards each other. And the same factor goes to KGBs. They were able to lay more eggs as they were gentle and kinder towards each other. So my question is, on what factors were KGB's chickens selected?
So I told you, right, KGB was selected as groups. So for the super chickens, what they did was, they had lots of groups, and in each group they tracked how many eggs each one of them were laying, and then from each group they picked up whichever were the maximum layers. For KGB, they didn't track them individually. They tracked how many eggs the entire cage was laying, and they selected that cage which was laying the maximum number of eggs. That is the difference. Okay? In one case you are selecting at the level of the individual, in the other case you are selecting at the level of the group.
Actually, I heard that the diabetes are happens with old peoples, but now
that's not true. Diabetes also happens with very young people. Nowadays, even people your age are getting diabetes.
now the newborn babies or some small children also have, but why it's happened now?
This is the part that we don't entirely understand, why the newborns are getting it. Because obviously if we are talking about all this aggression business, etc., newborns are too young for all that, right? So we still don't understand that bit, why the age of onset of diabetes in many cases is going down. Some people are blaming environmental pollutants and all that, but frankly speaking we don't know, we are figuring out.
I heard that because of genes of their parents, they have the diabetes.
That hypothesis also has been given, but if that be the case, then why didn't the parents get it as a young age, as infants, isn't it? So as I said, this is a question that is really problematic. People are grappling with it. We don't know as of now, frankly.
Thank you. You said that physical aggression is necessary for evolution, but at the same
No. I never said physical aggression is necessary.
According to that, the theory.
No. I didn't say physical aggression is necessary for evolution. What I said was, when we were evolving as apes in savannas, African savannas, there was a lot of physical aggression, because of which we evolved to become good at handling that kind of an environment. That doesn't mean that without physical aggression, evolution will not happen. Okay?
This is Ananya Gorbole, sir, from Seva Sadan. So, sir, I have a question. So, in today's era, many plants are being genetically modified. So, does that make the evolution process faster?
See, the moment you are evolving them genetically, you are kind of short circuiting the entire evolution process and you are changing them in one generation. So, in that sense, yes, obviously it is making it faster. I think what you are really asking is it leading to problems?
Yes, disadvantages.
We don't know. Okay, in many cases, the chances of problems are actually pretty high, because when an organism evolves slowly, one gene at a time or whatever, then the other components in the body, they get chance to interact with that and thereby kind of settle into some equilibrium. When you are just changing one or two genes, in many cases that is not happening. And also when organisms are evolving slowly, other organisms are also evolving with them. But if we are taking one crop or something and changing something in that, other organisms around it are not able to evolve as fast. So, the argument there is, hey, we are doing it only for crops, okay, and crops anyway are not interacting with any other plants, they are only in our field, so it is not a problem. But the issue is, we know that many crops at some point or the other will go into nature, okay. I mean, our fields are right next to jungles, right, so somewhere or the other it will just go into nature. We really don't know what will happen, and people have been saying that we have to be careful about these things, but then companies, they don't listen, right, when it comes to profit.
My name is Ira Usekar, and I was wondering if there are any theories about what the next drastic evolutionary step of Homo sapiens will be.
What the next drastic evolution step will be? We seriously don't know. To the best of my knowledge, there is no credible theory like that. Okay, it will all depend. Okay, first of all, frankly speaking, most people are worried whether we will be around for next 100 years or not. If we are able to be around for next 100 years, then depending on what the climatic situation is going to be, which part of the world will still be submerged and will be still outside water, etc., we'll have to see.
I have another question. There are many theories and concepts today about transhumanism, biomedical engineering and cross-species genetics. So will the next Homo sapiens evolution be artificially engineered or will it be natural?
Again, very, very hard to say. Okay. See, artificial engineering is very easy to do. Okay. So, given that, it is very easy for me to say that it will probably be artificial engineering. But honest answer is I don't know. We seriously don't know, nobody knows. As I said, our primary challenge right now is the next 100 years.
As you talked about diabetes and COVID, I wanted to ask, is the way of life or the way we are living in this generation is also causing often diseases, these diseases more often, the way you are living, and is also this related to evolution?
Yeah, that's what I said now. Nowadays we are eating very, very differently. Nowadays we take lots of drugs which are changing lots of things inside us. Nowadays our behavioral pattern has completely changed. So all these are our lifestyle features, right? And there, I mean, you go to medicine, there is this thing called lifestyle diseases, obesity, okay, all kinds of cardiac, heart related disorders, all kinds of issues. People have more or less pinned them down to lifestyle issues. So yeah, obviously how we live is creating a problem. What was the other part of your question? Of course it is related to evolution, because it is anti how we have evolved till now. Okay, that was the point that I was making. We have evolved in a way, now we are in a completely different environment, so we are having problems.
So my name is Samruddhi Bhor and I am from Suzurpaga. Can you tell theory of Charles Darwin exactly?
Can I tell what?
Charles Darwin theory.
Charles Darwin's theory. What is Charles Darwin's theory?
Yes.
I gave one part of it, right? Yes. That if you have variation and if that variation affects how you are reproducing, and if that variation is inheritable, it can go to the next generation, then natural selection will happen, because of which the property of the population in the next generation will change. That is in a nutshell Darwin's main theory. And there is more to it, but this is the main stuff.
What do you think about appendix? And why is it still in human body? It's kind of useless, right?
Vestigial organ. Yeah. I mean, there is this theory that many things in the body, they are there because our ancestors had it. Then at some point we had no use of it and therefore we lost it. But we haven't lost it completely, some small remnants are there. And appendix is one such thing. Similarly, you have this stuff over here, this thing in the eye. This is the nictitating membrane that you find in snakes where they can put it over their eyes. It's a remnant of that. You look at snakes, they have a small little hind limb behind them. So these are known as vestigial organs and these are thought to be proofs of the fact that the evolution happened in a certain lineage.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah,
my name is Rucha Hardipur from Seva Sadan School. So my question to you was, as we are evolving, so you are definitely our human brain is also evolving, right? So the disadvantages or the downsides of the evolution of human brain can be stress or anxiety, right? So we cannot say it is a part of evolution, but today we are facing this problem because of evolution.
Today we are facing the problem because we have evolved in the past in a different context.
Okay.
That is the thing. Yeah. So that's exactly what I said. That's the evolutionary mismatch theory.
But we can also say that evolution has evolved in the human brain, also has evolved with a negative side of our human brain also, right? Because the
But
stress
why is it a negative side?
Because we are more intelligent than ever. We have the technology. Yes, because we have the technology in these days, right?
And look at what we are doing to the earth.
That is the negative side of the evolution. That's what I was.
No, but why is it that you are blaming the process of evolution for that?
Because our human brain also started to think in a different or a negative way. Can we say that it is also part of revolution?
See, this will become a philosophical debate because the process of evolution is blind to what it is creating.
Okay.
Okay, evolution just happens if those 3-4 conditions that I talked about, they end up being true. So if the process of evolution is blind to the result, then whatever result is there, you can't blame evolution for it. Okay, so it is like the person who made the knife. Are you going to blame that person for all the murders that happened with knife?
No.
Isn't it? That poor person just invented the knife. So it is just like that. There is no answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Hello sir, my name is Sai and I'm from Seva Sadan. Actually my question was, is the increase in pace the ultimate reason for all the problems that we are facing nowadays, like lately?
Increase in what?
It could be increase in pace of evolution.
Pace of evolution?
Like just, the changes that are occurring. It could be technologically or, in other regions. So is it the reason for the, the problems that we are facing lately? It could be the stress, increase in stress or anxiety or even the health problems.
One possibility is that you are right about it. Because of technology, things are changing too fast. Okay, it's not happening gradually, and because it is not happening gradually, the issues around us are so stark. But you are right. If it happened more gradually, we would get more time to adapt.
Hello, sir. I'm Kashvi Parashar from SNBP. Sir, we have been told that dinosaurs have been evolved and adopted and now are in the form of a chicken. So can chickens be evolved and come back to be dinosaurs?
In the right environment, why not? Theoretically speaking, there is nothing to say that it cannot happen. Okay, but how long it will take, what kind of environments will be needed, what kind of selection pressure will be needed to get them back, that is very hard to predict. But theoretically, there is nothing saying that it cannot happen.
Sir, I have one more question. Sir, सबसे पहले मुर्गी आई थी या फिर अंडा?
This is the question that keeps on coming, right? And there is a very nice internet answer for that. People, this one I'm sure many of you would have heard, right? Whether the chicken came first or the egg. Now think about it. Snakes lay eggs, frogs lay eggs, fishes lay eggs, insects lay eggs. All these are evolutionarily speaking, they came before chicken, which is a bird. So eggs came first, chicken came later. Done, na?
My name is Sanika Godmare from SNBP Rahatni, And my question is that why does evolution always lead to much more advanced species?
It doesn't. That's what I answered to somebody, na? That in many cases it can actually reduce the complexity also. So for example, if you look at the cave fishes that I talked about, they lose their eyesight. If you look at the parasites inside our body, they have lost all kinds of organs so that they have become adapted to the parasitic lifestyle inside the body. So evolution in many cases leads to a reduced amount of complexity.
Sir, my name is Hashini Ramesh. Again, I have a question that how did evolution ever lead ostriches to hide their heads in sands when an enemy approaches?
This is a very problematic one. I don't know the answer to this one. Okay, you are right. This sounds like a very maladaptive thing. How on earth did it evolve? I don't know. I have never come across any good theory for this. So, yeah, frankly speaking, I don't know.
My name is Sonakshi Das and I'm from SNVP International School. So I had a question that the rate at which an organism evolves, the time it takes, which factors does it depend upon?
That is a very brilliant and technical question. What are the various factors on which rate of evolution depends? So mainly two or three things. Number one, how much is the variation present? Number two, what is known as the heritability of the trait, which means that how much of the trait depends on the genetic variation and how much of the trait, or rather the inheritable variation, and how much of the trait depends on environment, variation, inheritance. And the third is the selection pressure, which means how strongly selection is acting on it. Okay, so the greater the variation, faster it is. The more heritable the trait is, faster it is, and the greater the selection pressure, faster it is.
Can the principle of KG be applied to humans? As in, how the way you said ki, the death rates among the super chickens is more than the KGBs because of the physical aggression levels. So can that be handled by humans because we're having so many wars?
This is a very brilliant question. I don't think anybody has formally worked on this, but there are some very interesting anecdotal evidence which kind of works in this direction. So for example, the greatest longevity amongst humans is among certain groups in Japan. And if you look at those groups, their life is very community centric as opposed to individual centric. Okay, so as I said, this is an anecdotal evidence. One has to properly go inside and study it in detail, which I don't think anybody has done. But this is at least agreeing with what I just said. If you lead a life where the entire group's welfare is looked at, then at the individual level also it ends up benefiting you. Okay? But that's a great question.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Kritika Upadhyay and I'm from SNBP Rahatni. So my question is that does climate affect human evolution?
So the answer is yes, but in a slightly complicated way. Remember I told you that because of this AC, we, even if it is very hot outside or very cold outside, we don't care, right? So several such aspects of climate, human beings have been able to take care of through their technology. So those aspects are expected to affect less. But there are other aspects of the climate which we have not been able to take care of. For example, because of climate change, the range of many organisms, range means where they are found, is changing. And because of that, the diseases that they are carrying, those are also changing. So those diseases, because of climate change, if they end up coming to us, we have a problem. Those animals out there, they don't have the facility of having AC or anything. So they are changing, they are evolving in their own way, and sometimes that can cause trouble for us. So for example, one of the things that happens is when you have lot of environmental variation due to climate change, then remember I talked about drug resistance in bacteria? That can actually increase the drug resistance in bacteria. And when drug resistance in bacteria will go up, obviously we humans are in trouble. Similarly, suppose there is a major melting of the glacial ice caps, then the water level will go up, at which point many areas will get submerged, many crops will die because the areas will get submerged. Again, we are going to have trouble. So the answer to your question, does climate change affect, is yes, it does. It certain aspects of it does, certain other aspects of it do not.
So I also have another question. What could be the advantage if we don't evolve? Humans don't evolve.
See, first of all, evolving or not evolving is not an option. As I showed you, okay, if those three things, variation, differential reproduction, and the last one, inheritance happens, evolution will end up happening. You don't have a choice. But suppose any one of those things are not working, say there is no variation, or say there is no differential reproduction, whatever. In that case, what will happen to us? Now think about it. What does evolution do? Evolution increases your fit to the environment, right? You become better at coping with that environment. Yes. Now you are saying that the environment has changed, but I am not able to cope with it. What will happen? It will be problematic, right? It depends on how much of a problem, but it will be problematic for sure.
Sure.
Hello, sir. My name is Kavyanjali. From SNBP International. Sir, there are cases where newborns are born in an abnormal state,
Yes.
but the previous generations are normals. So why that happens?
Yeah. So there are 2 or 3 major reasons. One reason is that you know that all humans have genetic material in it, right? Now, when the genetic material is being passed from one generation to the other generation, many a times there are small changes in that genetic material known as mutations. Okay. Now, these changes can be because of those mutations, number one. Second thing is, you know that in humans, the baby has to be inside the mother's womb for 9 months, right? So, the environment that the mother is experiencing during those 9 months, that can greatly change the baby's morphology or physiology. So, if there are certain conditions that happens during that developmental phase, then the baby can be born with a deformity. So, for example, if the mother is not getting sufficiently good quality nutrition, say protein in particular, then the baby will be born with certain deformities. Suppose the mother is exposed to certain bad kind of chemicals. Okay, there was one example that I thought I will show you, I didn't. There's something known as thalidomide. You expose the mother to thalidomide, and basically the limbs of the babies, they come out like this small. Okay, it's called phocomelia. There is a, so essentially those 2 are the major things: the environment the mother is experiencing and the mutation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll go with the mic.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Ananya Bhatt from SNBP International Rahatni. So my question for you is that can a person's trait like anxiety or over stress can affect his or her pace of evolution?
Can a person's, I think you mean behavioral traits, right? Can a person's behavioral traits end up affecting their pace of evolution? See, first of all, you have to understand one thing, that pace of evolution is something that is not measurable at the level of the person. Okay, because the way I defined it, evolution is happening at the level of the population over time across generation, whereas one given person borns and dies, right? So the question that you are really asking is that suppose I have some organisms which are more anxious, then can that change the way they evolve, right? That's your question. And the answer is yes, it can change if it ends up affecting your chances of reproduction. So for example, suppose say there are some organisms which are very anxious, but because of being very anxious, they end up getting more mates. Okay, it actually happens. In mice, it has been shown that the anxious mice actually end up getting more mates. Okay, when that happens, obviously they will leave behind more babies. And when that happens, selection will prefer the anxiousness trait. Okay, so answer is yes, but it will happen not at the individual level, it will happen at the population level over time.
My name is Shlok Loya. I'm from SNBP school. And so you said that there are fishes which go into water caves and they become blind. So why is the reason snakes are blind? Many people say they have.
Why aren't the snakes blind?
Yes.
That's a very good question, because the ones that are going into the water cave, they are staying there. They are never coming back to the surface. But think about the snakes. Snakes are going up and down. Okay, they go for the burrow downstairs, but for eating their food, etc., they have to come out. Yes. So if the snakes go blind, they will have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Hi, sir. I'm Arush again. You said that when situations change, things that were beneficial earlier, that may cause harm right now.
Yes.
So many people watch anything on screen to relax their day or to release their anxiety and all.
Yes.
But nowadays, TV, phones, the screens have become an essential thing in our life. So
Is
the
it really true?
statement, yeah. So the statement contradicts that things that were beneficial earlier can cause harm right now, if taken screen.
Okay, 2 or 3 things. Number one, you are claiming that screens have become essential to life. I will argue that that is absolutely not the case. Okay, of course, if you have a mobile, then you have certain benefits, ordering food or whatever, making reservations, but by no means have they become essential. I mean, even if I take away the screens, you will live and you will probably have a very nice. So it has not become essential under any circumstance. Second thing is, I'm not saying that every change is bad. Some changes can be bad. Okay, so I mean, at the same time, I can show you so many examples which have been excellent for us. For example, the discovery of antibiotics itself has greatly reduced our mortality, our death rate, and we are living much longer because of that. And not only antibiotics, all kinds of medicines, they have increased our lifespan, all of which is good. Those are changes, but they are good.
Like this session is also going to be uploaded on YouTube, which can only be accessible through screens.
So what?
So
even if you don't see this, you will be perfectly functioning normal human beings and doing very well.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello sir, I am Ishan Chitay from Sevasadan School. So I have a query. Did all organisms in the world evolve from a single bunch of cells, or were there different groups of cells from which they evolved?
So this is a question on which people are still debating and people are still trying to figure it out. The most credible answer as of this moment looks like they evolved from either single or at max a few ancestral cells, not more than that. Not like thousands and thousands of lineages are persisting, one or a few.
Sir, my name is Chaitanya from SNBP International School. My doubt is that, you see all the animals, they look all identical, but it is not the same case in humans. Why?
All animals don't look identical. They look identical.
No, not all animals. There were separate species. For example, if you take a lion, all lions are same.
All lions are same to our eyes, not to the lion's eyes. See, that is the whole problem. Think about it. We Indians, when we look at, let's say, the Chinese, we say all Chinese look like the same. We can't identify across Chinese people, right? But if you go to the Chinese people, they will happily identify across all Chinese. And I have actually heard this from the Chinese guys. They can't distinguish amongst us.
Yes.
So for every group, they have certain properties where you look for the differences. Okay, and there are certain other properties where you don't look for the differences, and whatever you are used to, you take that. So for example, zebras, to our eyes all zebras look the same, right? All zebras have unique patterns. Do you know that? All tigers have unique patterns. Okay, so it is only to our eyes that they look same. To those eyes, no.
And my second doubt is too much of evolution good?
See, again, when you say it like that, it looks like there is a choice. The organism can choose to evolve, not choose to evolve, etc. But what I am showing you is that there is no choice. Okay, evolution will happen. Whether it is too much or too less, it will happen based on all those factors that somebody asked. Now, what determines the pace of evolution and all that? Depending on those factors, it will be a lot or a less. But whatever happens, the organism has no choice. It has to live with it.
Thank you.
My name is Radhika Zadav. I am from Huzurpaga. My question is, as you said earlier that we are still evolving and we don't have much physical aggression, so can we say that we are mentally evolving and we don't have much and we are getting weaker physically, and isn't it disadvantage for next generation?
See, first of all, I said that this weakness that you are talking about, it is happening because of the mismatch. Okay, we evolved in one way, now we suddenly find ourselves in an environment which is different. But now that we are in this environment, we will keep on adapting to this environment provided this environment remains stable. Okay? So we have found ourselves in a bad place, but we will keep on becoming better in this place, except that it will take time. Time across 5, 6, 7 or whatever more number of generations, that you and I won't be alive. Okay. So that is the main thing. It's not that evolution is bad or we have evolved to become weaker or so. Every organism evolves to become the highest reproducing organism under that set of situation. The problem is when you change the situation. Okay, that is the thing.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ishita Rajpurohit and I am from Huzurpaga English Medium School. As you said that when situation change, things that were beneficial earlier can become harmful to us.
Yes.
In what aspects things can be harmful to us? Like he said, that screens can be harmful, but what other things that can be harmful to us in that aspect?
Lots and lots of things. Okay. So I'll give you one major example. So inside our gut, there are lots and lots of microbes, bacteria. Okay. And these bacteria are very, very important for our well-being. They control pretty much every single aspect of our behavior, of our physiology, etc. Now, one of the conditions that has happened of late because of the enormous advances in medicine is that we are taking all kinds of medicines now. Also, as someone pointed out, we are taking very different kinds of food now, okay, ultra processed food and so on. Because of all that, the bacteria inside our body has changed. And because of that change, again, a large number of diseases that we are facing today, they have all been linked to this change in the environment inside our gut. Okay. So this is another example wherein you change the environment, things go wrong. Okay. So now what do? So there are lots of things that are happening. Number one, there is this thing called bacterial supplement. So basically people who have the good bacteria, you actually take good bacteria from their gut and you give it to those patients whose bacterial community has gone bad. That is one thing. But at the same time, we are also evolving against those bacteria, the new ones. Okay. And over time, all these problems will become lesser and lesser. It is just that it will take long time.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Sneha and I am from Huzurpaga English Medium School. So as you said that the newborn babies are physically abnormal because of the deficiency of nutrients in the mother. Then what about the newborn babies who are mentally abnormal?
Okay, many a times, many mental abnormalities, these are again traced back to all kinds of mutations. Remember, I also talked about mutations. So several of these mental stuffs can be due to some changes in the genes or sometimes changes at the level of the entire chromosome. You know chromosome, right? So sometimes the entire chromosome level can go up or down, because of which all kinds of issues can happen.
So I'm Ira Purandare from Sevasadan English Medium School.
Yeah.
So I had a doubt that can we increase the pace of evolution of humans to make them adaptable to certain environments which they are currently not, in which they cannot live currently, to tackle some problems like maybe overpopulation or stuff like that?
It is very difficult to change humans primarily because of ethical issues. Okay. So for example, how will you do that? In order to evolve, as I showed you, you need to have variation, genetic variation. How will you introduce the variation? For introducing variation, there are all kinds of chemicals that you need to use. But will you get permission to use those on humans? No. Then you have to make sure, for selection, you have to make sure that certain groups reproduce and certain groups, other groups don't reproduce. How will you do that in humans? Again, there will be ethical issues, major ethical issues, isn't it? So taken together, coming up with biological evolutionary solutions to human problems is very, very difficult. And also, of course, the problem that humans reproduce very slowly, 25 to 30 years for one generation. So typically all these issues, humans try to take care of them technologically, which means using culture. Okay. And of course, that has also led to a lot of nice results. So for example, when I was your age, overpopulation was supposed to be the reason for every single problem that India has. Okay, day in and day out there are advertisements saying we are overpopulating, and at some point it was hum do hamare do, and then it became hum do hamare ek, and after that they couldn't go below that, obviously. Okay, all those things happened. But nowadays, if you look at it, nobody is really talking about it, because nowadays that population problem has kind of stabilized. And in many parts of the world, forget about overpopulation, they have a problem of underpopulation. So countries like Japan, countries like in the Scandinavia, Finland, Sweden, etc., all those people are very, very worried that after some time their population will crash. Canada. That is why these are the countries which welcome immigrants to come to their country and settle, simply because they don't have many of their own. So all these countries have at some point or the other taken cultural or technological methods to control problems like overpopulation, and they work much better than biologically.
Hello, sir.
Which way?
Sir, here.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mugdha Sandane. I am from Huzurpaga English Medium School. So my question is, if we talk about evolution, we have also seen that twins are born, but in some cases one of them is healthy and other is weaker. So my question is, genetically it should alert both of them. Why isn't it so? Why this isn't so?
So when you have a twin, one is healthy and one is less healthy, and you are asking why that is so. That's a very deep and very technical question. Okay. So what happens is, when the baby is growing up inside the mother, you are talking humans, right? So when the baby is growing up inside the mother, the baby is drawing its nutrition from the mother, right? Now when it is drawing the nutrition from the mother, the babies can differ in terms of their ability to attract the nutrition from the mother. It is not given equally. And obviously, if the nutrition is given unequally, the one that gets more will come out stronger, the one that gets less will come out weaker.
Basically, I seen this in movie.
Yeah. So this is what you are saying is correct, and this is a very active area of research, not only in human beings but also in peas. So for example, have you ever shelled peas at home, green peas, right? Are all the pods equal size? Very often not, right? But all of them obviously have the same genetic makeup, they are in the same pod. So why is it that some of them have more some of them are larger and some are smaller? Exactly the same reason. Okay, different offspring, different kids have different abilities to pull the nutrition towards themselves, and that is what leads to the difference in their body size and therefore strength and weakness.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Sanchi Durve. I am from Sevasadan School, and I had a doubt that can we evolve to be immune from any disease in the future?
Can we evolve to become immune from all diseases in the future?
Yes.
It's probably going to be very difficult. The reason is because all these microbes which are causing these diseases, these microbes are evolving much faster than we are. Okay, they are very small, they reproduce much faster, their mutation rate, which means the amount of variation that they have, is higher, selection pressure on them is higher. Taken together, in general, microbes are evolving much faster than we are. Therefore, by the time we have evolved to tackle one microbe, it has probably gone much further ahead of us, and we have like millions of microbes out there. So theoretically speaking, the possibility perhaps exists. Realistically speaking, it's highly unlikely that we'll be ever able to do it using biology. Okay, technology is a different ballgame. We might be able to come up with a technological solution. Biologically, it seems unlikely.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Vaishnavi Kanade. I am from Huzurpaga English Medium School. So as we are living in 21st century, there is lot of advanced technology. So on this basis, can we predict evolution or can we change evolution?
That is a question that everybody is asking. Okay, and there is, see, the problem is that technology is never stable. Technology itself is changing at an extremely fast pace, and biologically speaking, we humans are very, very slow. So unless there is sufficient time for which the environment remains stable, evolution will not happen, isn't it? So as of now, we have not hit a scenario where there is stability for long enough time for that thing to happen. Once it hits there, then looking at the genetic background, we should be able to predict. As of now, no.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Siddhi Parve. I am from Huzurpaga English Medium School. So my question was, in the post-independence era, Indians were given the punishment of living in dark rooms. So how that dark rooms?
Post-independence, who gave that punishment? Yeah?
Britishers.
Post-independence, Britishers kahan the?
Britishers. Pre-independence.
Okay. I mean, you're talking about people who were in jail, or you're talking about general population?
In jail.
In jail, yeah, okay, theek hai.
In Andaman and Nicobar.
Andaman, cellular jail.
How that was affecting mentally and physically on them?
Oh, it was affecting very, very badly. See, I told you, right? Forget the Britishers. Even today, in prisons all over the world, the highest form of punishment that can be given to a jail inmate is solitary confinement, typically in a room with no sunlight or anything. Okay, and that completely, does all kinds of terrible things to their mind. It's a mental punishment. It's not so much of a physical punishment. And yeah, so let's not blame the British for it. It has been there forever. It is still there. And B, as I pointed out, it kind of drives them crazy. Okay, they kind of have all kinds of mental effects first, and then all those effects come to the body. So even the most hardened criminals, they are afraid of this particular punishment.
And my question is, in the future, how will cloning affect evolution?
Cloning of what?
Of animals or even plants.
See, what does cloning do? Cloning, as the name suggests, creates clones, right? So when you are making clones, they are genetically identical to the parents. Now suppose you have made many, many clones and you have put them out in the field. So by the way, right now that is happening. You don't have to go in future. So right now when you have, let's say, certain crops, bananas or certain other things, all of them are essentially clones of each other. Now think about it. There is no variation in them. So if there is a problem that happens, some pathogen or some drought stress or some salinity stress, some kind of stress, the entire population perishes in one shot. Okay, and that is why this is a huge problem right now, because for commercial reasons we have completely destroyed the variation around us in terms of our crop plants, in terms of our farm animals, poultry animals and all that. Because of which nowadays, if there is a disease that comes, which is one animal is susceptible to that disease, the entire population gets wiped out in a minute. Okay, and that is a huge, huge threat to our food safety across the entire world. That is why in countries like India, people are going out of their way to preserve the traditional varieties. Okay, I mean, you ask your parents, you will find that when their time, they were at your age, there were so many varieties of rice in the market. Now you get only a few. There were so many varieties of dals in the market, so many varieties of millets in the market. Everything has disappeared now. Okay, all the desi varieties are gone because we have these hybrid varieties, and massive amount of problem happening because of them. So it's not a future issue, it's a present issue.
But what about the cloning in animals?
Cloning in animals, if they end up becoming successful, right now for big animals they are not yet fully successful. Some dolly, etc., one-off cases, but not in the mass produced scale as it is in plants. When that will happen, the same set of problems will happen in animals. Okay, one disease, one pathogen, entire population gets wiped out, and that's going to be terrible.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Arnav Dudgikar. I have two questions. The first one is, currently which is the fastest evolving species and the slowest evolving species in the world?
Fastest evolving species most probably will be some virus. Okay, I mean the corona evolved like mad during that period. AIDS virus is also supposed to have a very high mutation rate and so on. Slowest evolving species, probably the one which has the longest generation time, which will probably be some of those huge sequoia trees that you find, okay, which live for thousands of years and which reproduce like every few hundred years, etc. So most probably those.
Sir, and I have one more. What is the relation between evolution and genetics?
See, I told you, right, that you need three things. You need variation. Variation is going to be at the genetic level. So genetics studies that. And you also need that variation to pass on to the next generation, that is inheritance. Genetics also studies that. So evolution and genetics are actually very closely related to each other. Okay, genetics essentially studies it at one generation level, parent to offspring. Evolution says, okay, now if this is happening over the entire population across many generations, what is going to happen?
Hello sir, I am Soham from Seva Sadan. So I have a question. Is evolution only impacted by variation or other extraterrestrial or environmental factors as well?
So other environmental factors, they will end up affecting the variation. Okay, so for example, there are several chemicals which end up increasing the mutation rate, because of which the genetic variation goes up. Okay, there is something known as epigenetic changes. So these are changes that are again affecting the organism, but they are not happening at the level of the genes, they are happening at the level of how the genes are being expressed. These are known as epigenetic changes, and they can also pass on. So in all these ways, environment can also affect evolution, but end of the day, all that is happening through increasing the variation and the inheritance of it. That's all.
I think we'll take a last question of today's session. You raise your hand first, so that's why this will be the last. Okay.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the last question.
Well, you have the last word.
Yeah. Sir, so as per I'm not able to get one thing, that is brain signals mutation. Is this statement true, or is it an accident and it is a trial and error scenario?
No, wait a second. Brain signals mutation.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
Sir, when mutation takes place in genes, does brain signal it?
No.
It doesn't
signal.
No. So it's an accident kind of.
Yes,
you can say
mutations happen randomly.
Okay.
And the brain typically doesn't have anything to do with it directly.
Directly.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is an accident, and it plays in.
We don't say accident, we say random. Right? And the brain typically doesn't have anything to do with it directly.
Directly.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is an accident, and it plays in.
We don't say accident, we say random.
It's a random thing, and in the nature, the trial and error happens, and the species flourish. Okay, thank you.
Pretty much, that's the summary of evolution. Yeah, people, we have to stop. It's 1 o'clock, and I think you have to go back to your respective schools, right? Yeah.
It's a really wonderful session, and we should have give big clap for the Sutirth and for his listening all the questions. So thank you very much, Sutirth. This is one of the best session actually.
Thank you, Ashok.
Thank you.